Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Coby Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Well, you see, we're in our dress-down gear today because we're recording this on 4th of July. And this is a special 4th of July show because we really want you, those of you who did not get an opportunity to see the debate or hear the debate or watch the debate earlier today on our show, The Coffee with Curry. We want to give you an opportunity on this show, at the end of this show, to be able to review it. Coby, there were two shootings this week, and Monday and last Saturday, there was a shooting in Wilmington. On Monday, there were two young men who were shot, 23 to 25-year-old.
Yeah, that happened on Vandiver Ave and Northeast Boulevard. Both of them were transported to the hospital in critical condition, but as of right now, both of them are still alive, and there has not been any further details put out about that shooting.
You know, and you said that, you know, as the summer goes on, there's going to be more and more shootings. I just hope that the police department is really upscaling their presence in some of the troubled areas. You know, and I know policing is not the only way of handling this, but I think that we need to, if we know that these, like Vandiver, that's what's that, the second district or?
That's third district.
That's the third district. And who's the district person?
Councilwoman Xanthia Oliver.
Okay. So we really need to, we praying that they would do better. But then there was another shooting on Saturday of a 20-year, another young person.
It was in the 400 block of West 7th Street. There was a shooting. A 20-year-old man is in the hospital in stable condition, was taken in stable condition, but he is recovering right now. Again, I am glad that all three are still here with us. I think one public safety plan should have been put in place probably about 2-3 months ago in order to prepare for the summer months, right? Okay. We said that we know, right, it's historical trends that when the summertime comes about, you see more violent crime go up. That's just what it is, unfortunately. So you have to have a plan in place in order to address the public safety issues that we have here in the city of Wilmington. Okay,
and I think that you've been sharing it, and I'm sure the police department probably are saying we do have a plan. There's some things you cannot plan for. But one of the things I'm kind of grateful about is that people are not shooting to kill to the level that it was at some point. Because at one point when a person got shot, they were dead. But I'm seeing that it's still wrong. We don't want shootings at all. But to see so many who have been shot and they are able to get a second chance at life, I think that's very much important.
Yeah.
As I shared with you all earlier, we're getting ready for the debate, a second running of the debate, and I want to make sure that you have enough ample time. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back with Coby's Corner, and we'll move from there. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, Coby, what's going on with the Coby Corner this week?
Yeah, so one, I have 2 points that I want to talk about this week. One is what happened in Newcastle County with the Newcastle County Police. It feels as though I'm always talking about police brutality cases with them. But at the Royal Farms on 40, you had a woman who was a little older who was getting stopped by the police. And they were trying to get her to the ground. It was 2 officers, then it was 3 officers, then it was 4 officers. Really? And then a female officer came running over once they did get her to the ground and started punching her in the face, which then led to another male officer punching her in the face while she was on the ground with at least 2 officers on her back arresting her. This is a blatant offense. Use of force, unnecessary force. And it's something that we in Newcastle County are so used to now when it comes to the Newcastle County Police. It breaks the public's trust. And also for the General Assembly not to do something to actually hold them accountable. If you are a police officer in the state of Delaware, you have the most rights anywhere in this nation. That's how bad our LEA board is here. And the General Assembly, all they really did was change the name of it from LEA board to PODPAC to include a little more coverage for other different types of officers, constables and stuff like that. When you have cases like this, it gets under your skin, it gets you enraged and everything. But then you have to take the steps towards change. Conversations are already starting up again about what we truly need to do. Certain legislators who pushed and wanted to call out the advocates and everything are either shocked that something like this has happened and the officers involved didn't get fired.
So will their shock turn to action?
Hopefully. But these officers did not get fired. They got put on administrative leave, which is pretty much just a paid vacation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why this investigation goes on. Later in the day, that video came out of the lady. Another video came out with Newcastle County Police and Dunleaf stopping a 17-year-old boy, harassing him and his friends for breaking the law of jaywalking. Arrested him and charged him with jaywalking.
Yeah, just for those people who are watching us, Coby, I want to know, you can go back, continue on once I ask these questions. For example, the young lady, Caucasian or African-American?
African-American.
How old was she about?
In her 40s.
In her 40s? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't
it was not a teen or anything.
It wasn't a teen. It was, okay. So you're saying that the police department for Newcastle County basically attacked this young lady. Mm-hmm. And I don't know all the details. And it took 5 or 6 of them to subdue her? Mm-hmm. Was these officers black and white?
Yes.
There was a mixture of them.
Yes, but the officers who were throwing the punches were white.
Oh my. Is the NAACP involved in this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, okay.
Yes.
Is there any footage on this at all?
There is footage on that and on the young teen as well.
We need to get the footage so that people get an opportunity to see it for themselves. There's so much fake news is going on, and people tend to always say, well, that's fake news, that's fake news. They need to be able to see, because had they not saw what happened with, what's the brother? George Floyd, then they would have never believed that that was possible. So I don't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to make sure they understood that it was a 40, you don't know for sure her age, but
I don't know,
about 40-something years old in that area. And it took about 7 police officers. She's punched, she's hit, she's kicked. That's unacceptable. I'm sorry, you can go to your next one. I'm apologizing.
But then the young man was harassed. He was arrested and charged with jaywalking in the neighborhood. They was trying to get him to answer questions about someone else who they were looking for, and he said he didn't know who it was, and they escalated it to the next.
That's harassment.
That is harassment. And him and his family have been trying to file complaints with the Newcastle County Police. They tell them you have to do it over the phone. There's no paper form, but every time they call over the phone, they get hung up on.
Have anyone tried to reach out to the county exec?
Yeah, so the county exec did put out a statement saying that it's going to be investigated, that they're opening up an investigation into the incident, and we'll be looking forward to reviewing the body-worn camera footage as well, too.
Okay, that's going to be important. That was my second question. Now, will it be for both cases or just that major one, that other one?
So it was for the first one with the lady.
Okay.
And I don't know where they're at with the young man just yet. From my understanding, he was charged with criminal charges, but those have now been dropped by the judge.
Okay, well, and that was, thank God for the judge.
Yes.
All right.
My last point today, last Thursday, there was a debate.
Yeah. And
a presidential debate. And I'll be honest, President Joe Biden did not do his best. He had a lot of mishaps. He froze a few times. Do I think that should determine whether or not someone stays in a race or whether or not they're good enough to be the president of the United States? No. Why? Because he has a record of success. And for the first time in a very long time, you have 2 people who have 4 years in the Oval Office whose records we can review running against each other. We saw what Donald Trump did, and we have seen what Joe Biden has done and tried to do. We have more jobs. We have lower costs for prescription drugs. We have historic investments in environmental justice and transportation. We see these projects popping up all over Delaware and all over the region, right? You go up to Philly, you see 3-4 signs that says project paid for by Build Back Better. This is what President Biden has been able to do. And again, at the end of the day, it's no denying he's an 82-year-old man. So yes, you're going to stutter. Yes, you're going to have some mishaps. But I think, one, it matters who you have around you. His advisors, his cabinet are very strong and knowledgeable of what they do and have been able to implement great policies, right? Also, I think there has been a plethora of meetings since that debate. President Biden has met with governors, has met with Democratic Party leadership, has met with the delegates, right, and his campaign staff as well too, to reassure them that he is staying in this race. The media has turned on him. It's, I mean, you can't deny it. The media has turned on him and pitting out a narrative that helps Trump, saying that should Biden step down from the ticket, should Biden be replaced, be forced out by the DNC. So again, there's a lot of things going on right now.
Yeah, well, as we are gearing up and understanding it, and next week, could we please revisit this conversation? Because I do want everybody to get a chance to view the debate, those who may have missed it. But as we are really understanding this, now I agree, his track record far succeeds many, even to Obama, if we can only be very honest and transparent. But if it is a cognitive issue, I do have a problem with that. I think that he should make sure that he has gone through a cognitive review to ensure that he's competent to be able. Some of the narratives and lies that Trump put out, well, nobody cares about it. We looked at the debate. He didn't win the debate because he didn't say anything of substance throughout the whole debate. But Trump is being Trump, and he's a great con artist. And one of the things I was trying to talk about on our last show is that Biden has a track record. His track record speaks to how he has supported the African-American, Latino, Black, brown people community to a level that it has. Trump is groping women, and he stayed in the race. To hear some of these hypocritical Republicans and others, even some Democrats, to say that he should get out. No, his track record is very strong, and I support him staying in the race. You know, and will that cause America to turn on him and then go with Trump? If they're that silly, if they're that cynical, then that's an issue for me. And I'm being very honest with you. But I just really think that at this point, he has done some phenomenal things for our infrastructure. He has done some phenomenal things for the community, our seniors, those of you who are on insulin. You should know without a shadow of a doubt, $35 is not what you were paying before he became president. People were paying $500 and $600 a month for their insulin drug. And he has done so much. You're saying, well, he did this, he did this. Well, Trump did nothing but give to the rich. So, which is his cronies.
And he wants to expand his tax break.
And start killing some of the people who came up against him. Is that really what we want? We need to deal with that. Listen, we're going to thank you so much, Coby, for this time that we were together for the source. And we get ready to now switch into the re-recorded version of the debate. Next week, we're going to talk about it. So prepare yourself for that. We are going to talk about it. I thought they both did a phenomenal job, and you'll get a chance to view it for yourself. We thank you so very much for this time. Now we're going to turn into our pre-recorded debate. And we're back. Today marks the celebration of a brand new day in the city of Wilmington. We're starting something new, Surrogates Debate. We get the opportunity to hear from those who are representing, whether it be Velda Potter's campaign or John Carney's campaign. I'm looking forward to today's debate. I want to first start by sharing with you the rules of today's discussion and debate. First, each surrogate will be asked the exact same questions so that they will be able to respond appropriately without being interrupted. We'll be giving them 4 minutes each. The opposing surrogate will be given a 2-minute opportunity to rebut anything that was said or stated. Then we have each surrogate will be given 3 minutes apiece in order to do a closing statement at the end of this debate. I will remain very neutral, other than to ensure that we're understanding what has been asked and whether or not the question had been answered. We tossed a coin at the beginning, and heads won, which means the Carney camp had an opportunity to go first. Both of them were very generous, saying each can go first, but I'm grateful to God that we do have 2 strong HBCU brothers here on today. I want to first start with introducing our surrogates. The first surrogate is Mr. Cerron Cade. Cerron represents John Carney, who is the current governor for the state of Delaware. Cerron is a two-time graduate of Delaware State University. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's degree in public administration. Currently, he's a resident of the City of Wilmington. Cerron worked as the director of the Delaware Office of Management and Budgeting. He also was a cabinet secretary for the Delaware Department of Labor. He also served as an acting director for the Delaware Economic Development Office. Through his career, he's had an opportunity to serve as a legislative aide for the Delaware State House of Representatives, as well as a deputy county director for U.S. Senator Tom Carpenter, project director for Congressman John Carney during that time, and legislative liaison for former Governor Jack Markell. Brother Cerron, welcome to Coffee with Curry.
Thank you for having me, Pastor.
Next, we have Darren Rainey, Sr., and he's representing the surrogate for Mrs. Velda Potter. Darren is a graduate of Hampton University and Relay Graduate School of Education, holding a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in English and language arts. He also is a current doctoral student at Delaware State University, currently serving towards his doctoral degree in educational leadership. He also served in the United States military as an officer in the United States Army. Darren currently serves as an adjunct professor and program manager for the recruitment and retention of diverse educators at Delaware State University. In addition to his role, Darren leads the Master of Arts in Equitable Curriculum and Instruction Leadership program at Delaware State University. Darren is a citizen who really is committed to bringing a brighter future to the city of Wilmington. I want to say to you, welcome to the Coffee with Curry. Well, let's get started, and I really want to take this opportunity before we get started to say to both candidates, whether it be Governor Carney or Ms. Velda Potter, thank you very much for allowing your surrogates to come willingly, and I hope and trust that they do justice to you on this day. Cerron, the first question is going to you. As a surrogate of John Carney, you have made a wholehearted, conscious decision to give your unyielding support to him. What are your driving, motivating factors, and what new policies and or plans are John Carney proposing to implement in the city of Wilmington?
So thank you for the question, and thank you for the invitation to be here today, Pastor. So I, like many of you, have known John Carney for years. In normal years, it would probably be enough just to say, you know, John Carney's a nice guy. John Carney's very likable. John Carney is a good man, and that would probably be enough to say you should vote for him. But I don't think we're really in normal times right now. We're at a crossroads where cost of government is skyrocketing because of healthcare and wage competition. We're in a place where our economy is fast changing right now with the expansion of AI, and it's really going to reduce a lot of options for a lot of residents of the city of Wilmington who are looking to put food on the table for their families. And we have an education system where the outputs and the outcomes that we're looking for aren't manifesting themselves, regardless of how much we've poured into the system. And so with all of these things happening, all that uncertainty, I don't think it's enough that we just have a good man or a good person or a good woman serving as mayor. I think we need a great leader. And I've had the opportunity to serve next to John Carney over the last 8 years. And I've had the opportunity to witness him firsthand as a leader, whether it's entering into the administration with a hostile takeover of one of the largest prisons in our state and having to navigate around that, or dealing with a once-in-a-century global pandemic and making some really difficult decisions that save thousands of lives in our state, or being the governor that has invested more money into the city of Wilmington than any governor in history. I've seen him firsthand take on these battles, and I've stood next to him in a lot of these political battles. And there is nobody right now that I would more fully support to take over the mantle and lead this city in this time more so than him. His focal points in this campaign are going to be not too different than his focal points when he was serving as governor. And it's really education of our students. Now, I know we'll be able to get into how the city can play a role. Typically, the city doesn't play a role, but I think he's got a new vision of how the city can play a role in education in our state, our city. The other areas are going to be focused on our youth, making sure that we're providing not just things in the classroom for our kids, but what's happening to them in the communities. Are there after-school programs for them? Are there athletic opportunities for them to keep them out of trouble, to keep them off the street, and give them an opportunity to flourish and grow and be successful? How we're going to address affordable housing. This governor put over $100 million last year into affordable housing, and it's still not enough. And there's going to be work that's going to be done over the next 8 years or 4 years to figure out how to create better housing opportunities for people who need them the most. And so for all of those reasons that he staked his claim to run for this office and he's made a focal point of, I'm going to be supporting him in this race. And I hope that a lot of other Delaware Wilmingtonians will do the same.
Okay, all right. Yeah, your role as a state president, you keep using
state.
Well, we appreciate that so very much. We're going to take an opportunity to give you a chance to rebut anything that Mr. Cerron has just indicated.
Nothing that I really want to rebut. I mean, he said a bunch of things that were true, right? John Carney is a nice man. I've met him, had the opportunity to meet him. But I think that when we look at the leadership practices or the leadership within the state, we look at where we are economically, we look at where we are as far as education, right? And the policies that have helped shape where our current reality, the person who's been at the mantle for the last 8 years has been John Carney, right? So as we think about a new direction for the city of Wilmington, I think it's really important that we start to think about a different type and approach to leadership.
Darren, as a surrogate of Velda Potter, could you really share with us why you wholeheartedly is supporting her and what new policies and plans does she plan to bring forward to the city?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that the primary reason that I support Velda, right, is that she's a proven and effective leader, right? We've seen both in business and in government, as the finance director of Wilmington, as the city's treasurer and the treasurer of the state of Delaware, right? She's been proven and successful in those roles and her ability to lead. She's a native of Riverside, right? And she is of the community and for the community and truly believes in centering people, right, in her governing practices, right, which I wholeheartely believe that's something that the city of Wilmington really needs, right? A leader who is human-centered, people-centered, right, who really can center the voices and the needs and the concerns and perspectives of the people who are here. And that's something that Velda is very much committed to, ensuring that our tax dollars, the tax dollars in the city of Wilmington, right, benefit those who are from and in the city of Wilmington. And when we think of like some of the policies that she's proposing, one is really around just eliminating barriers, eliminating barriers around like selective enforcement, right, or red tape around permitting and some of the administrative processing thing. She's really focused on lifting people up. So focusing on education and the role that the city can take on education, right? Really thinking about this idea of local control of education in Wilmington, right? Which currently hasn't existed for a very long time. Increasing homeownership and affordable housing for the folks of Wilmington, right? Increasing the opportunities for small businesses and for entrepreneurs who come from the city to be able to establish businesses in the city, right? And focusing particularly on our youth, understanding that our youth is the next generation of leaders in our city, right? And really harnessing their power, right? Through education and empowerment of our youth for them to be able to step up and lead in the city. And these are some of the reasons why I support Velda and believe that she is the best candidate for the mayor of Wilmington.
Thank you so very much. All right, Mr. Cerron, you have had an opportunity to hear his reasons. Is there any rebut to that?
So one thing that I would push back on, and I like Darren, other than him being a Hampton grad, but he is at DSU's doctoral program, so we'll give him a little bit of leeway on that. But one thing I'll push back on is the idea of John Carney being in this position for the last 8 years. And I think it's important that we point out that the problems that we're talking about didn't just arise over the last 8 years. These problems have been here for decades. And what I think John Carney has done over the last 8 years is he's laid a foundation to address many of these. You mentioned lack of local controls. John Carney, who knocked on doors, went to every single school district in the city of Wilmington to force them to put together the Wilmington Learning Collaborative, which is going to force all of the school districts in the city of Wilmington to work more collaboratively to serve the schools in the city. It's the closest thing that we've had in a very long time to Wilmington School District. It was John Carney who led that process and pushed for that. It's John Carney who's been pushing behind the scenes, and we finally see we've made some headway in getting Christina School District out of the city of Wilmington. It's John Carney who went down to Dover and fought for over $90 million to build a brand new school, first time in the last 50 years in the city of Wilmington, named after a great mentor of mine, a fraternity brother of mine, late Miss Maurice Pritchett. And so these are things that, and also before I forget, $60 million in a new weighted student funding model that was created during his administration to provide funding for low-income and English language learners. And so it's the foundation that he's created that the next administration in the governor's office, as well as the next mayor, are going to have significant tools at their disposal to address many of these problems in our education system. And it's because of the work that he's done. It's a relay race with some of these hard, long-fought problems and issues. And I think John Carney has run a heck of a leg over the last 8 years and handed the baton off to another administration in the governor's office. But it's time that we pass it to him so that he can continue the race for the city of Wilmington.
Cerron, in recent years, the city of Wilmington has suffered with an increase in gun violence. As a matter of fact, the United States Surgeon General has declared gun violence as a public health emergency. What plans or policies are proposed by John Carney to aggressively address the ill of gun violence and crime within the heart of the inner city for the city of Wilmington?
Well, that's a great question. The Governor Carney has focused really strongly on strong communities and promoting strong communities. And you can't have strong communities if your communities are safe. And so we go into this knowing that. This governor, looking at what he's done and then using that as a kind of foreshadowing of what he will do if given the opportunity to be mayor, as governor established the Group Violence Intervention Program, which has now been adopted statewide. It started in Wilmington, and it's been adopted in Dover now. And the focus is really to give individuals who've had a history of crime, had a history of bad behavior, an option. You can either continue to go down the bad path, or here are resources that are available that can help you to turn your life around. Whether it's emergency housing to get you out of a bad element, or whether it's job training and an opportunity to help you put food on the table without breaking laws. And this is a strategy that has not only been employed in Wilmington, but has been employed throughout the state now. We recognize, and I think the governor recognizes, that you can't just combat gun violence with police. One of the areas where we still consistently see growth in shooting incidents is among our juveniles. And so if you don't have a focused policy on how do we address our youth, how do we create opportunities for them, whether it's jobs, whether it's making sure that there are after-school programs available to get them off the street, whether it's ensuring that there are opportunities for early work for our young teens so that they can get out there and start having the pride of having a job. If you're not doing all of those things, then you're not serious about addressing gun violence. If you solely think that you're going to address it by just putting more officers in the street, and there's a place for that. There's a place for more community engagement officers to be out there building relationships and communities. But our focus has to be on the individuals, not just the guns. Now, I would be remiss to say if I did not mention that during Governor Carney's administration, he signed a bevy of gun control laws to help get guns off the street, prevent guns from getting into the hands of individuals who are participating in straw purchases and the like. And all of those things are important. But you're not going to solve this problem just by attacking the gun. You have to solve the problem by addressing the individual who picks up the gun. And that's what this administration would be focused on.
All right, Darren, you heard what he shared. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have any major rebuttal to what he shared. I think if you look at the statistics, right, homicides have actually gone down, but shootings in Wilmington, right, and shooting incidents have increased, right? So like in the state, less people are dying, right? But in Wilmington, more people are getting shot. And when we look at gun violence, right, it's one of the leading causes of death for young people, which I think ties back to our earlier conversation around education and developing our young people, right? Because they are suffering the most from this. And I think, crime is a symptom of many issues, right? Particularly gun violence. Any type of crime is a symptom of many issues, and he named a few. But I think one of the most important things that we have to talk about is income inequality and the correlation that has with crime and violence, right? So when we think about how do we address income inequality in the city and how do we ensure that the residents of Wilmington have opportunities for jobs and have opportunities to grow their income, right? That is a way, right, of really addressing some of those larger issues.
But when Cerron has shared that the Governor Carney has worked hard to decrease, my question as a rebuttal for you is going to be, do you feel, I don't want you to say yes or no, but if you feel that is correct, then the mayor of the city is responsible for the city.
Yes.
The governor of the state is responsible for the state. So if crime is going down in the state, then it seems like maybe what Cerron is sharing may be true.
I think there is truth to what Cerron is sharing,
okay,
right? However, right, it's not enough.
Okay.
Right, there is more that needs to be done, right? One, and then this goes back to investing in the people and understanding the needs of the people and investing in the needs of the people. And this is something that Velda in her policy is planning to do. One, around establishing an Office of Neighborhood Safety and Neighborhood Development, right? And within this Office of Neighborhood Development, she would focus on individual neighborhoods because we know, right, Riverside has different needs than Eastside, right? Southbridge has different needs than Riverside, right? So really understanding and working with the leaders in those particular communities to understand the needs and meet those needs. Expanding clean and safe teams, right? From outside of just downtown Wilmington, but into the cities, right? Focusing on mental health and social services. We know that a lot of post-COVID, a lot of people in the community are experiencing challenges with mental health and lack of access to social services that also are key indicators of decreasing crime and violence, right? So really expanding those opportunities and options for people to seek and get the mental health and social services that they need, and then creating intervention and prevention programs for our youth to really be able to educate and train them, help them understand how to cope with the issues that they're dealing with in the community, as well as how to respond to those things that trigger us. I think one of the questions we really have to ask and understand is what makes a person commit a violent crime, right? And then when we understand what that is, how do we use these policies and how do we use these services that the city is supposed to provide to help kind of prevent it to getting to that point for our young people, for our residents, for families. I think ultimately families and communities, we want to feel safe. We don't want to bury our loved ones or have to deal with the trauma that comes from dealing with gun violence, which I myself have dealt with. And we know that there are ways to address this in a way that honors and serves the humanity of the community.
Gotcha. All right. Well, in saying that, the same question is asked to you. Are there any policies that Mrs. Potter proposed to address some of this violence? We've heard some of we heard some solutions in your answers, but are there some specific policies that she may have where she gets an opportunity to really say, okay, if you vote for me, these are some policies that I'm going to institute?
Yeah, I think one of the things is really around addressing opportunities for jobs, right?
Okay.
Addressing opportunities for jobs to increase the income, right, of Wilmington residents, and to ensure that they have a meaningful and living wage to be able to meet their daily needs. I think that is one of the aspects, and that's one of the approaches, investing in small businesses to create those job opportunities in the cities for Wilmington. I talked a little bit about the violence prevention and intervention efforts that kind of also speaks to what Cerron named earlier around like after school programs for young children, right? Giving children something to do. As an educator, one of the things that I know is that when young people have something to do and they are actively engaged, they're not out in the street doing things that could be detrimental to their and other people's health, right? So investing in after-school programs, investing in community programs and community resources that support young people, and then again, our mental health and social services. I think that's one of the top priorities of the Velda Jones-Potter campaign, right? Is ensuring that those mental health services are available to our young people. So when they are going through things, that they have an outlet, someone to talk to, someone to provide the coping mechanisms and skills, so that they don't resort to violence when they feel that is their only option. I think ultimately, like people, when someone resorts to violence, right, it's often because they feel like they have nothing to lose.
Okay.
And what Velda is approaching through her policy initiatives is giving the people something, right, so that it doesn't, that there is something that we have to lose, and we think twice about the decisions that we make as individuals before we resort to violence.
Third question, and our third question deals with across the country and specifically within the city of Wilmington, there is a true, and this question is to you, Cerron, there is a true shortage of affordable housing.
Absolutely.
For real low-income people. When I say real, I mean, because sometimes it goes by the medium of the community, and sometimes you got a couple of people in the community who got make big bucks, and it goes up. But there's a shortage for affordable housing. And over the past few years, there's been an influx of moderate to high income units being built. Especially some of the people in the inner city will say that, you know, on the riverfront there's plenty of housing, but in the city, in inner city there isn't. Does John Carney see this as a problem is my first question. And if so, what plans will he be proposing to rectify? And if not, why? Yeah,
so that's a really great question, and it's very timely. When you ask, does John Carney believe that this is a problem? We've got about 7 budgets or 8 budgets that we presented so far. The last one, FY24, Governor invested over $100 million into affordable housing programs, not just to create new affordable housing opportunities, but to preserve existing affordable housing units that were going to go back to market rate. And individuals who were in those units would have to figure out how to cover that cost. That was a significant investment, but I'm not going to sit here and act like that was enough, because as was mentioned before, it's not enough, which is why John Carney is running for mayor right now, because we still have more work to do. One of the focal areas that we have to make is expanding some of our existing housing programs from just subsidized rental to actual home ownership opportunities for those individuals who are participating in those programs. As was mentioned before, the solution to a lot of social ills is a good paying job. That solves a whole lot of problems for a whole lot of people. And one of the problems that it does address is giving an individual a fighting chance to be able to afford that 2-bedroom apartment or that townhouse so that they can raise their children in a safe environment. And so those are 2 areas where I think we can make a little bit of headway. The other area, we got a lot of vacant properties that are sitting on the sidelines right now. We need to figure out how to get those properties back into the game. Those properties could be opportunities for affordable housing for city residents, but right now they're not serving anybody's purpose. In fact, they're a blight to our neighborhoods because we've got landlords, some of which may not even live in the state right now, who are not caring for them and are allowing them to stay as a part of a problem rather than being a part of the solution. And so we're gonna have to wrap our head around how we can get these vacant units back out into the marketplace to get them back into the game. One of the ways to do that is utilizing the land bank. This past budget, the governor was successful in getting the legislature to put $1.5 million toward the land bank. Another area, in Southbridge, right down the street, tearing down Elmer Palmer and pushing to get using ARPA funding from the pandemic to build new affordable housing units on the site that Palmer used to be. We don't have to guess where he's going to be in these areas. We kind of know because we've seen how he's operated and what's kind of motivated him and what's driven him. So while we do, we have a growing city, and as I mentioned before, we're at a crossroad. It's good that individuals who can afford to live in Wilmington are moving in. That's a positive thing. I don't want to give for 1 second, make it seem like that's a bad thing, but it's not enough. We need mixed income housing. We've made over $30 million investment over the last few years in what they're doing over at Reach Riverside, which is going to provide more mixed income housing opportunities. And we've got to do more of that. And so I think those areas, getting those vacant spaces back into the game, focusing on turning subsidized rental opportunities into home ownership opportunities and helping to bring good paying jobs here to Delaware. The governor just invested over $200 million in the Port of Wilmington to expand it, which hopefully is going to create another hundreds of new good union jobs right down here in Southbridge. These 3 things I think are going to be incredibly important to addressing this problem.
Okay. All right. Any disagreements?
No, I think so. Cerron, he named a couple things. One around just getting homes to that affordability point, right? There's been a lot of effort put into, right, bringing people into the riverfront, right, and the demand for the riverfront. But to your point earlier, right, it is not necessarily serving the best interest of the people of Wilmington, right? There is a lot of blight. There are a lot of homes. I think when you look at, in essence, the failure of the Wilmington neighborhood conservatory land bank, right, where wealthy investors came in, were able to buy homes and renovate them and sell them for profit, right? Those are like policies that didn't necessarily benefit the people of Wilmington.
And where does those policies come from?
So that is a combination of the current mayor, Brzezinski, right? And some state policy, right? And I think we can't ignore the fact that there's a through line between the city government and current state government, right? And the city policies that have been in place for the 8 years of almost very similar to mirrored state government, right? So when you think about what's been going on in the city and how the policies that have made homes less affordable for residents of Wilmington, right, don't really differ much from the state policies that the Carney administration has brought forward. So a shift here to kind of think about some of the things that Velda Jones-Potter is thinking about, right?
I'm going to come to that question. I just want to make sure you were able to clarify some of the things that you may disagree with or not with the Carney administration. So you're making sure I understand, you're concerned about some of the policies that has happened over the 8 years with both offices, the mayor's office and the state office, I guess you would call it, that causes you to be reserved. I'm just trying to get an understanding.
Yes, I appreciate you for that push, and appreciate you for kind of lifting that up. That is the major concern, right? As I see it, right, there's a through line between city and state government and the policies that have been implemented that have made homes less affordable for Wilmington residents. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna let you rebut on that one if you will.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say this is a national problem. This isn't a problem that just Wilmington is facing or just Delaware is facing. This is a market-based problem that you would probably trace all the way back to Wall Street, to be quite honest with you. So this is an incredibly important issue. Again, not one that I'm going to lay on the feet of this mayor or this or Ms. Potter or Governor Carney, but something that each one of them, I'm going to lay it at their feet, is going to be the responsibility of theirs to address when they take office. When it comes to the existing policies that we've had, there's some I'm going to definitely agree with Darren about. I think that there was a time, and has been a time, when throughout our state, we've just had a focus on building. You know, let's just get cranes in the sky and get places up so we can address the increasing population of our state. Over the years, 20, 30 years that we've seen this population growth, I don't think there has been an intentional focus on, until most recently, on the different income levels of home buyers. And so that's an issue. I think the governor recognized when he took office that this was an issue, and has implemented policies at Delaware State Housing Authority to create greater opportunity for tax credits for individuals who want to invest in affordable housing opportunities, as well as direct investment for those who want to rehab housing. But I do agree that there is a bigger role that the land bank can play when it comes to establishing policies that are not just focused on cranes in the sky and getting as many properties out into the market regardless of what their costs are. I think there's an opportunity here to be more specific, to be more intentional, to identify areas of growth, and to make sure that they're serving all of our residents rather than just the folks who can afford to move into the high rises down at the riverfront.
Yeah, and it was not one of my questions, but because we're discussing it, the land bank, for example, who controls the land bank?
It's a
public-private partnership.
But it seems like, and I asked that question because it seems like both entities pour into the land bank, whether it be the state.
So the state actually had not been investing into the land bank until I think most recently, when Governor Carney said, I really want to make this investment into the land bank, because he recognized the opportunity that tool can play in the toolbox when it comes to addressing these problems. And so the city over the last few years has been investing into the land bank. They got it off its feet, and I'm sure it's done some good work in targeted areas of the city that the administration is focused on. But I think in the next administration is going to be an opportunity to take a new look at the land bank and what it's capable of. Not necessarily just what it's done, but what it can do. And if there's anybody that I could trust that's going to be able to come in, take a look at something from soup to nuts and figure out how to make it work better. I've seen John Carney do it numerous times, and I'm certain that he's going to do it now.
Okay.
I think so when you think about the land bank, I think the question that we have to ask, right, is like, who's held it accountable?
Okay.
Right. It is a private-public partnership, right? But there's been a lack of accountability in ensuring that the land bank, its intent and its purposes are actually directed at meeting the needs of Wilmington residents, right? And when we take a step back and look at it, who has it actually benefited and whose interest has it actually served, right? I think a lot of Wilmington residents would look at it and say, not ours, right? A lot of folks who have been able to come in, use the land bank to flip homes and make profit, right? And that profit has not been poured back to the city, right, to support the taxpayers of the city whose tax dollars invest in the land bank. So I think that's a question that we have to ask. I do believe that Velda Jones-Potter, given her background and as a treasurer, right, city treasurer, state treasurer, and holding people accountable when it comes to money, I do think that she is most qualified and best positioned to ensure that the land bank is something that serves the interests of Wilmington residents and Wilmington taxpayers.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Let me go back to the third question that we had given to Cerron, and I want to come back to you and say, across the country, specifically here in the city, we do have a low income housing problem, crises. It's across everywhere. But beyond the riverfront, is there any policies or procedures or thoughts that Mrs. Potter has that will help us to know that she would help in this low income affordable housing dilemma we're in?
Yeah, so there's a couple. One is eliminating exclusionary zoning, and discretionary zoning. Is something that Velda has proposed. I think the other one is around holding public-private partnerships, exactly what we just talked about, holding them accountable, right? And ensuring that the dollars invested are being used to benefit Wilmington taxpayers. Another thing we've realized, right, given this shift to remote, right, is that there are a lot of office space, office buildings that are available, right? So looking at converting office to apartments, right, to create more affordable housing. There are also some areas when we think about, so like that kind of deals with the supply, the market issue, right? But there's another side to this, and that's the income issue, right? There's a lot of barriers that currently exist to income, right? When I think about, for myself, right, how am I gonna pay my mortgage, my rent, right? I have to think about my gas costs, transportation costs, right? Childcare costs, all those things factor into affordability, right? So when we think about the barriers, some of the policies that Velda is looking at is how do we reduce barriers to income so that we can ensure that people have just the income, right? How do we reduce childcare costs? How do we increase training opportunity and job training so people get more well-paying jobs, right? And have increased income. How are we engaging in tenant advocacy, right? To ensure that landlords aren't spiking the rent, right? Which we've seen over COVID, right? That kind of, we saw the cost of rent outpace the average income. Both, and that's not just a Wilmington issue, that's a national issue, right? So looking at policies and implementing policies and investing city dollars into reducing those barriers to income so that our residents can afford it, right? And then looking at those private and public partnerships and those opportunities to increase not the demand, but to increase the supply. Thank you, Cerron, to increase the supply. So you then get more supply and you get people who have more income to be able to take advantage of that increased supply.
Okay, all right. Any rebuttal?
No, I mean, I think we're in unison in kind of what we think the tools to solve this problem are. I think the land bank stands out as a tool that can be used, sharpened to solve this problem. I think that there are existing programs that are in state government that can be deployed, tax credits to incentivize developers to develop affordable housing opportunities. I think that there are opportunities to, even for those who are building some of the nicer, more less affordable units, to incentivize them or encourage them to add a percentage of affordable units into the properties that they're building and developing. I think these are opportunities that this next administration is going to have, and these are things that this governor, soon to be hopefully mayor, has been focused on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come right back. You've been watching the live debate of the candidates for the mayor of the City of Wilmington's office. You had both surrogates of John Carney and Velda Potter. I wanted to make sure We didn't cut anything out, so you got an opportunity to hear clearly what each surrogate was sharing. So what we're doing is we're going to make this a 2-week debate. We will finish up the last 2 questions and closing on next week. I want you to tune in. I hope you took some time to really pay attention to the information that was shared. First, I want to thank both candidates for allowing their surrogates to come. Secondly, I want to thank both surrogates for being very cordial and very collegiate with each other. Yes, debate is about making sure your point of view is heard and clear. I think both articulated well and have provided us with good information. You may disagree with some of the information that was shared. You have that right. And you can ask those questions, especially when we have the actual candidates debate, which is going to be very, very shortly. Next week, we ask the question, will Governor Carney debate Velda Potter? And the answer is coming up in next week's telecast. So I hope that you will stay tuned because that would be a very interesting note for you to be able to know. But I do want to thank every person who was a part of this. The questions were there. I made sure I asked some clarity questions so that you can get as much information as possible. The election is coming. And when the election arrives, I want you to be sound in your decision. Someone asked me, Pastor, why are you doing the surrogates and not doing the candidates? We are going to do the candidates. As a matter of fact, we're going to do all the candidates who are willing to come on and to hear us. We're also going to do some in live here at the church. We're trying to schedule now some debates with other organizations. But what I want to make sure happens is that we get information out there on the policies of each of these candidates. The stakes are high. We have to vote. We need a mayor for the city of Wilmington who cares about people. We need a mayor for the city of Wilmington who cares about our communities. The community is in disarray. Will whomever become mayor be able to solve the ills that are in our community? Crime is up, and we want to make sure that we are tackling those questions so that we can make a sound decision. We cannot be emotional about what we are going to do. We cannot be emotional about even giving up our vote. We must give our vote to the person who will advance Wilmington. Wilmington is a great place. Wilmington has always survived. I just tend to believe that the reason why many are failing now is because there's too much special interest, and the special interest is what's causing a lot of our problems. I am very thoroughly convinced now that we must make a conscious decision. So what we will be doing with the Coffee with Curry, The Source, and other forms of media that I am in charge of is making sure that we get the information out. I want to do it in a non-biased way. I may have a preference of candidate, but I want to make sure that even though I have a preference of candidate, it is not making you vote the way I feel you must vote. Here's my goal. You must vote. That's my goal. But I also believe, as an educator, as one who have been educated, I believe that the more information that we have, the better sound our judgment will be when it's time to cast the vote. Next week, we're going to continue this debate. There's still a couple of questions that need to be answered and a closing from both of these surrogates. I'm fully convinced that you will enjoy it. Please tune in next week as we will continue. We're going to allow this debate to be aired today at 5 o'clock on The Source. So if you may have missed some of it and you're saying, you know what, let me make sure I heard what I heard. We will be pre-airing it at 5 o'clock during our Source Hour with the latest news that is happening in and around the city of Wilmington. It's been my pure pleasure having this first debate. I don't know of any that have happened in the city before. It's going to continue to happen. I just was thinking it's best to just get as much information out as we are preparing for the debates of those individuals who are running for the city of Wilmington's mayor's office. Finally, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you've done for the Coffee with Curry show. Thank you for how much energy you put into it. I see you in the Wawa. I see you in the Dunkin' Donuts. I see you in the ShopRite. And you are telling me you're watching. I am very grateful for that. And I hope that you will continue to tune in. And I want to make sure I'm one channel to bring you good news and glad tithing. Until the next time we get together, may the Lord God bless you real good.